Deuteronomy chapter 4. And now, Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I am about to teach you. Obey them so that you may so you may enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to or subtract from these commands I am giving you. Just obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you. You saw for yourself that the Lord did what the Lord did to you at Baal Peor. There the Lord your God destroyed everyone who had worshipped Baal, the god of Peor. But all of you who were faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today, every one of you. Look, I now teach you these decrees and regulations just as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the surrounding nations. When you hear these decrees, then they will exclaim, "How wise and prudent are the people of this great nation! For the great nation has a good God as near to them as the Lord our God is near to us whenever we call him. And what great nation has decrees and regulations as righteous and fair as this body of instructions that I am giving you today? But watch out. Be careful to never to forget that you yourselves have been seen. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live. And be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren. Never forget the day that when you stood before the Lord your God at Mount Sinai, where he told me, 'Summon the people before me, and I will personally instruct them. They will learn to fear me as long as they live, and they will teach their children to fear me also.' You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain. While flames from the mountain shot into the sky, the mountain was surrounded by black clouds and deep darkness, and the Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but did not see his form. There was only a voice. He proclaimed his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to keep, and which he wrote on 2 stone tablets. It was at that time that the Lord commanded me to teach you his decrees and regulations, so you would obey them in the land you were about to enter and occupy. But be very careful. You do not see the Lord's form on the day he spoke to you from the heart of the fire at Mount Sinai. So do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether a man or a woman, an animal on the ground, a bird in the sky, a small animal that scurries along the ground, or a fish in the deepest sea. When you look up into the sky and see the sun, moon, stars, and all the forces of heaven, do not be seduced into worshiping them. The Lord your God gave them all to the people of the earth. Remember that the Lord rescued you from the iron smelting furnace of Egypt in order to make you his very own people and his special possession, which is what you are today. But the Lord was angry with me because of you. He vowed that I would not cross the Jordan River into the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession. You will cross the Jordan and occupy the land, but I will not. Instead, I will die here on the east side of the river. So be careful not to break the covenant the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make idols of any shape or form, for the Lord your God has forbidden this. The Lord your God is a devouring fire. He is a jealous God. In the future, when you have children and grandchildren, you have lived in the land a long time, do not corrupt yourselves by making idols of any kind. This is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, and will arouse his anger. Today I call on heaven and earth as my witness against you. If you break any covenant, you will quickly disappear from the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will live there only a short time. Then you will be utterly destroyed, for the Lord will scatter you among the nations, where only a few of you will survive. There, in the foreign land, you will worship idols made of wood and stone, gods that neither see or know, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from they you will search again for the Lord your God, and if you search for him, you will, with all your heart and soul, you will find him. In the distant future, when you are Suffering all these things, you will finally return to the Lord your God and listen to what he tells you. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon you or destroy you or forget the solemn covenant he has made with your ancestors. Now search all of history, from the time God created people onto earth until now, and search for one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything as great as this ever been seen or heard before? Has many nations ever heard the voice of God speaking from fire as you did and survived? Has any other God dared to take a nation for himself out of another nation by means of trials, miracles, signs, wonders, war, a strong hand, a powerful arm, and terrifying acts? Yet this is what the Lord your God did for you in Egypt, right before your eyes. He showed you these things so you would know that the Lord is God and there is no other. He let you hear his voice from heaven so he could instruct you. He let you see his great fire on earth so he could speak to you from it. Because he loved your ancestors, he chose it to bless their descendants, and he personally brought you out of Egypt with a great display of power. He drove out nations far greater than you, so he could bring you in and give you their lands as your special possession as it is today. So remember this and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God, both in heaven and on earth. There is no other. If you obey all the decrees and commands I am giving you today, all will be well with you and your children. I am giving you these instructions so you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord your God is giving you for all time. Then Moses set apart 3 cities of refuge east of the Jordan River. Anyone who killed another person unintentionally without previous hostility could flee there to live in safety. These were the cities Bezer in the wilderness plateau for the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in the Gilead for the tribe of Gad, Golan in Bashan for the tribe of Messiah. This is the body of instruction that Moses presented to the Israelites. These are the laws, decrees, and regulations that Moses gave the people of Israel when they left Egypt, as they camped in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan River. This land was formerly occupied by the Amorites under King Sihon, who ruled from Heshbon, but Moses and the Israelites destroyed him and his people when they came up from Egypt. Israel took possession of his land and all that the King Og of King Og of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. So Israel conquered the entire area of Aror at the edge of the Aron Gorge all the way to Mount Sirion, also called Mount Hermon, and they conquered the eastern bank of the Jordan River as far south as the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pasgah. Okay, now we're going on to chapter 5. Chapter 5. Moses called the people of Israel together and said, "Listen carefully, Israel. Hear the decrees and regulations I am giving you today, so you may learn them and obey them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Mount Sinai. The Lord did not make this covenant with our ancestors, but with all of us who are alive today. At the mountain, the Lord spoke to you face to face from the heart of the fire. I stood at an intermediary between you and the Lord, for you were afraid of the fire and did not want to approach the mountain. He spoke to me and passed his words on to you. This is what he said: I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other gods but me. You must not make yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I am the Lord your God, and I am a jealous God, who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the 3rd and 4th generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy as the Lord your God has commanded you. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day must be a day of rest, the Sabbath, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your oxen and donkeys, and other livestock, and any foreigners living among you. All your male and female servants must rest as you do. Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, but the Lord your God brought you out with his strong hand and powerful arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to rest on the Sabbath day. Honor your father and mother as the Lord your God commanded you. Then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. You must not covet your neighbor's wife. You must not covet your neighbor's house or land, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that the Lord or that belongs to your neighbor. The Lord spoke these words to all of you assembled there at the foot of the mountain. He spoke with a loud voice from the heart of the fire, surrounded by clouds and deep darkness. This was all he had said at that time, and he wrote his words on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. But when you heard the voice from the heart of the darkness while the mountain was blazing with fire, you and your tribal leaders and elders came to me. They said, "Look, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and greatness, and we have heard his voice from the heart of the fire. Today we have seen that God can speak to us humans, and yet we live. But now, why should we risk death again? If the Lord our God speaks to us again, we will certainly die and be consumed by his awesome fire. Can any living thing hear the voice of the Lord God from the heart of the fire as we did and yet survive? Go yourselves and listen to what the Lord our God says. Then come and tell us everything he tells you, and we will listen and obey." The Lord heard the request you made to me, and he said, "I have heard what the people say to you, and they are right. Oh that they would always have hearts like this, that they might fear me and obey all my commands. If they did, they and their descendants would prosper forever. Go and tell them, return to your tents. But you stand here with me so I can give you all my commands, decrees, and regulations. You must teach them to the people so they can obey them in the land I am giving them as their possession." So Moses told the people, "You must be careful to obey all the commands of the Lord your God, following his instructions in every detail. Stay on the path that the Lord your God has commanded you to follow. Then you will live a long and prosperous lives in the land you are about to enter and occupy." Chapter 6. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must occupy them in the land you are about to enter, you must obey them in the land you are about to occupy. You and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all these decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are home and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on your doorpost of your house and on your gates. The Lord your God will soon bring you into the land he swore to give you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from the cisters you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget the Lord who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must not fear the Lord your God. You must fear the Lord your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must use only his name. You must not worship any of the gods of you must not worship any of the gods of neighboring nations, for the Lord your God who lives among you is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test the Lord your God as you did when you complained at Massah. You must diligently obey the commands of the Lord your God. All the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as the Lord said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that the Lord our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, We were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. The Lord did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give our ancestors. And the Lord our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done this day. For we will be counted as righteous. We will obey all the commands the Lord our God has given us. Okay, guys, so that was our reading. 17 minutes, pretty short for 3 chapters, and most of these chapters were over. So like chapter 4 and chapter 5 were 40 verses, so I thought they were going to be a lot longer, but they're not. So to dig a little bit deeper here, this is again Moses talking to the people, kind of like chapter 1 through 3. It was a lot of the summing up basically their entire travel time. Chapter 6 was talking about a lot of the commands that God gave to them, as far as basically that the people, they had to what's the term? They had to obey these commands before, like they had to obey them just to get to the land that was flowing with milk and honey, that the Lord has given to them as his people. But they also have to obey them like generation to generation, every time that they're living, generation to generation. And the thing that I liked about this part was towards the end, they said, in the future, when the children will ask them, why do we have these laws and these decrees and the things that God has given us? And you just have to answer, the Lord has given us these commands because they were slaves at Egypt, and the Lord brought them out as his people with his strong hand, and he did miraculous things. So basically, to repay him and to do what he's saying to do, they just had to follow what he says and go basically wholeheartedly into his decrees. Chapter 5 was basically restating the 10 commandments, which was not having an idol, obeying your parents. I don't know why I don't have these memorized, but I should. No gods or any idols of any kind. Do not misuse the name of the Lord. Keep the Sabbath day holy. No stealing. Honor your father and your mother. No murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not testify falsely against your neighbor. Do not covet your neighbor's wife or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So those, and then the Lord basically, and it talked about chapter 4 and 5 talked about how the Lord basically talked to them and told them all these in the fire when they were at Mount Sinai or Saya. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. And so it was basically just a rerun of telling all the 10 commandments and talking about the Lord talking to them in the fire at Mount Sinai, and basically that they just have to follow the rules their entire lives and through generation to generation. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.